Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Here.
Mr. Jim?
Present.
Mrs. Wolford?
Here.
Mr. Scapora?
Here.
Mr. Baldneri?
Here.
Mr. Forish?
Here.
Mayor Griffin?
Present.
All present.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of council, now is the time which has been advertised for a public hearing. The public hearing was advertised by the Latrobe Industrial Development Authority. Currently it has before it a request by St. Vincent College to issue tax-exempt notes or bonds in the amount of $17 million for various purposes, including the refinancing of an existing bond. Mr. Dan Hudock is here representing the Industrial Development Authority, and he will give you a brief explanation of what this project is all about. Under the Tax Equity and Financial Responsibility Act of 1982, which is called TEFRA, this matter, because we are the body that created the Industrial Development Authority, this matter must come before council to take a vote on a resolution, and in essence the resolution authorizes the mayor as the elected official to sign off on the project. So with that, Mr. Hudock.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. As Mr. Kelly said, this is a TEFRA hearing, and there will also be another one at Unity Township on Thursday. The law requires that we hold one in the municipality that formed the authority, but also the municipality where the project is. In this case, it is a St. Vincent College project. And going through this process is a precondition for the issuance of tax-exempt bonds, and that's what's going on here. The city is not a party to anything. I want to stress that. None of the city's finances are at stake in this, and it will not affect your borrowing capacity or your taxing power. This is an issue of up to $17 million in bond financing, $12 million of which will be refinancing, and up to $5 million of new money. And as I said, this will be for St. Vincent College. And this evening, John Kachmar from St. Vincent and also Rick Williams from St. Vincent are here this evening. I can turn it over to Mr. Kachmar, who could explain how the money will be used.
Thank you. As Dan stated, the total project is $17 million. It's primarily refunding to take advantage of lower interest rates. There is approximately $5 million of new money that will be used to renovate Girard and Bonaventure halls. Those are dormitories on campus. It's just internal renovations, masonry, roof, that type of thing. The occupancy will not change. There is no addition being planned to the buildings. They are strictly renovation. And that's basically what the project is. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council? And the money will be restricted just for this use. I know that question came up at we had a LIDA meeting, the Industrial Development Authority last week, and the board has already approved the project from their end of things, but that was one of the questions. The money would specifically be used for these two projects.
At this time, I would ask if anyone from the audience wishes to offer any comment. This is a public hearing. Apparently, there are no further comments. So with that, Madam Mayor, I would suggest that the hearing be closed.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kelly, those items are on the agenda.
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion for approval of minutes, please, for January 14th?
Madam Mayor, I move the minutes of the January 14th, 2013 meeting be approved and accepted and be permitted to remain on the Secretariat desk where they will be available for reading and inspection to anyone.
May I have a second?
I'll make that second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Motion for approval of fiscal department reports, bills for the month of January 2013, please.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Walner, second.
Second.
Ms. Wolford, all in favor?
Madam Mayor,
Oh, sorry, do you want-
I have a question. I've noticed that on the check register, a lot of the larger checks are written like January 11th, 52,000, January 7th. My question is this: were there any bills or invoices that were received and due in December of 2012 that were not paid, but rather held over so that they would be paid in January of 2013? If so, which ones are they?
Not anything that was due.
Pardon?
Not anything that was due until January. We
You-
didn't hold any payments.
Did you, in fact, have invoices, though, in December that could have been paid?
If the invoices had met 30 days and we got them in December, they would have been paid within the 30 days. So they could have went into January, yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea how much that could have been?
No, the auditor, Tim Rennie, that's usually his job. He pulls those out to see what the accrual amount is. Whatever was accrued in December that's not paid till January.
It's whatever is accrued or should be paid. I guess that's my question. If they can be paid, are they normally paid or not paid?
Well, since we operate on a cash basis, whatever is not due in December, if it's not due till January, we don't pay it till January. But the way he looks at it is if it was accrued in December, then that's where he cuts it off from.
I see. Well, that would reflect on whether or not we had a surplus for 2013, would it not? When he does it.
Right. The cash budget at the end of the year is usually different from the audited amount, and that's why.
And I guess my second question would be, would the invoices that in fact could be paid but aren't paid, are they then part of the 2013 budget as expenses to be paid? How do you put them into the 2013 budget for payment?
They would show as paid in 2013.
Show is paid. How do you put them in the budget, though? How do you list those? Are they listed as potential expenses?
The invoice date would be whatever date it was put in the computer. Say if it came in December 25th, if they were put in on December 25th, the invoice would show that. But if we're net 30 days, then it's not due until January 20th or 25th or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We're not paying it in advance
I understand.
from when it's due, but it was accrued in December, so the auditor looks at it that was a December charge.
It looks better than what it is what I'm saying. Is you report you made a surplus in 2012, but you haven't in fact paid invoices that have been received. It looks as if you've made a surplus when you haven't. But anyway, that's my
I don't
question.
think that's true.
The fact is, the budget is based on how it would work last year. So the same would have been true last year. 2012's budget would have included, because we did the cash basis.
I would suggest that we perhaps should look at whether or not we declare there's a surplus based on what's due. And maybe it's time that we changed our accounting methods to reflect that, just the same as the auditor does. Anyway, that was my question. There are some that apparently weren't paid, that could have been paid in December.
They could have, but they weren't due.
And that's the practice that we've used historically.
And it's acceptable government accounting procedures that we follow.
So we didn't do anything different this year than we did last year, or the year before, or the year before.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Alex, what would the revenues at the transfer station first month? Do you know, happen to have those numbers?
Just one moment.
Just
please.
curious.
You would have had that in your packet, so I can find it. The revenues for January if I'm reading it correctly. 26,917.
Right. Which
Does that sound right, Joe?
It's less than last January's, but we've had a bad weather month so far.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have citizens requests and comments. Would anybody like to address the group? No, you can't. Okay. All right, we'll go to committee reports. Any council members' committee reports? All right, board and authority.
Madam Mayor, I just have for everyone a copy of the 2012 annual report for Latrobe Park and Recreation. So I'll just pass one of these. Pass around.
Thank you. We appreciate our updates. Okay, board and authorities, Chief Bumar, you want anything to say? Sorry.
Good evening. This week marks the second year anniversary of me being the chief of police in Latrobe. It's been an eventful 2 years. The department have not been so successful or achieved what we have achieved without the support we have received. This time I'd like to thank those who have supported our department, the staff and administration, the city manager, Mayor Griffin, and city council. I would like to also thank the police officers' collective bargaining unit and the city's personnel committee for reaching a collective agreement and a contract. This was such an important step in alleviating stress within the working environment and continuing a cohesive relationship between city administration and the police department. Lastly, I would like the council, the mayor, and the city manager to never forget that the men and women who put their badges and serve and protect the city of Latrobe appreciate your unanimous support for the police department. I believe the city administration, the city government, and the police department all have a common goal: to make Latrobe a safe, secure, and livable city. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Brazili? Okay. Joe? Bush?
This past month, although there wasn't any large totals in accumulation of snow, it was quite a busy month. I'll call them nuisance snows. Many times we were out an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch that we had to glaze over, and we had to go out in order to make our roads safe. Actually, we put down 245 ton of salt this past month, and there was many a times that if I thought it wasn't needed, that we didn't actually go out. We were called for service more than we actually went out. But we did put approximately 1/4 of our budgeted salting material down. Along that lines, Public Works Department, the motorists in Latrobe and throughout the Commonwealth are going to be seeing a new sign. Currently, under the stop signs that have 2 or more arteries leading into that intersection, you'll see 3-way, 4-way, 5-way stop. Those signs are becoming obsolete, and throughout the Commonwealth, and including Latrobe, you're going to see these signs now. So any more intersections that have more than 2 arteries, as that 3 or 4 or 5-way sign needs replaced due to damage or faded, it'll be replaced with this sign here. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Ann, would you like to?
I have no report this month.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the first and only item under the Planning and Development Department is a resolution. It's entitled Approving the Latrobe Industrial Development Authority St. Vincent College Project. I will highlight the preambles, and whereas TEFRA requires the approval of a governmental unit on behalf of which an issue of Industrial Development Authority notes are to be issued in order for the interest thereon to qualify for the exemption from federal income taxation contained in the Internal Revenue Code. And whereas the Council of the City of Latrobe is the governmental unit required to approve notes issued by the Latrobe Industrial Development Authority, and whereas St. Vincent College has requested the authority to issue its tax-exempt note or notes in an amount not to exceed $17 million to finance a project consisting of the refinancing of 2 existing bonds and remodeling and rehabilitation of existing structures, facilities, and dormitories and buildings on the campus of the college. And whereas a public hearing was held by the authority in the city on February 11, 2013 at 6:30 p.m. And whereas the mayor of the city of Latrobe has requested the advice of this council as to whether or not she should approve the project under the authority granted to her under the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as the applicable elected representative of the city of Latrobe as said terms defined in legislation. Now therefore, be it resolved, Section 1, the Council of the City of Latrobe does hereby approve the financing of the project for purposes of TEFRA. Section 2, the mayor of the City of Latrobe is hereby authorized and directed to render approval of the project under the provisions of TEFRA. Section 3, the approval granted hereunder is under and subject to the provisions of the Home Rule Charter and all other applicable ordinances of the city. The approval is further subject to the express condition that any note issued thereunder shall not constitute or give rise to a pecuniary liability of the city or a charge against its respective credit or taxing powers. And Section 4, that the mayor, secretary of city council, and any other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents, including the approval and consent form attached here to carry into effect this resolution. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor, and attached to the resolution is the approval, consent, and certification to be signed by the mayor.
May I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Ms. Wolford, second, please.
I'll second that.
Mr. Giovanangelo. Any questions or discussions? Okay. Mark?
This is resolution 2013-11. Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 7 yes.
Your motion carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that is the only action item for tonight other than under unfinished business. The agenda notes an appointment to the Latrobe Planning Commission. It's my understanding that there is an applicant. Would Madam Mayor tell us who that applicant is, please?
Jason Weiss, 414 Lloyd Avenue, Latrobe, PA.
I have a resolution, and the resolution would read appointment of Jason Weiss to the Latrobe Planning Commission. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that Jason Weiss being hereby appointed to the Latrobe Planning Commission for a 2-year term to fill the unexpired term of Ronald Weimer, said term to expire on January 31, 2015. And Section 2, that the within resolution shall become effective immediately upon passage. Resolved in council of the state, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as read by the solicitor.
May I have a motion? I do nominate him, so.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Scapora, second.
I second, Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Molinari, any questions or discussion? Okay, Mark.
This is resolution 2013-12. Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 7 yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
There's no further action items, Madam Mayor.
New business?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to mention, I see that Mr. William McCabe is in the audience. visiting with us, and I believe he is a potential judge nominee as of tomorrow, or is it the 18th?
After the 19th, yes.
After the 19th?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Madam Mayor, I have a press release here from Governor Corbett's office.
Okay, oh, okay.
Did you want to go ahead and do that?
No.
Okay, it was announced today that Governor Corbett has released money. The city of Latrobe will be getting $1 million for towards its parking garage. Those of you who will remember, a few years ago, I believe the mayor and some members of the city met with Senator Ward, Representative Petracca, seeking money to help us fund our parking garage, and we will be getting $1 million towards that renovation. So I'd like to thank Senator Ward for all her hard work and Representative Petracca.
Thanks for reading it. I just was going to mention it. Yeah, I appreciate all that $1 million.
Congratulations, Rosie. You said we would get it, and by gosh, we did.
Thanks.
Good work.
Thank you.
Well, that's good news anyway. Anybody else for new business?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We all received in our packet today a letter from Wade Stoner of White Rose Investments. He had some dealings with our front of the house, and he pointed out that one of our employees serviced him in a exceptional, positive, professional, courteous manner. It's Miss Karen Mahalik, and I just wanted to point that out to you. There is some good news once in a while from the public, and she's to be commended for the manner in which she handled this.
Okay, thanks. I was going to do that at the end, but that's...
Sorry, Mark, we stole your thunder. I'm sorry. I have one thing left for the end, so if nobody, if you want to bring it up, I'm going to tell you now.
Oh, and I have one more thing. Mr. Kelly has informed us that my pet peeve, the safe crosswalk, whatever that project, we filed a claim with our insurance company, so we are moving slowly at a glacial speed. But nonetheless, we are moving, so.
All right, that was all right. You could do that.
I don't mind. That's Caesar as his pet project, if you don't know. Anybody else? Okay, Alex.
I would like to note, related to Mr. Baldneri's comments, the performance of Mrs. Mahalik was nothing exceptional. That's her typical. The front staff, and I can say that for a number of offices in the tax office and up at the transfer station, provides courteous, convenient, friendly service. And that isn't easy to do when people are pretty upset paying a parking ticket or paying for things or turning in taxes. And what Karen did, quite frankly, was typical. What was atypical was the recognition in writing received by the person receiving the service, and that's to be commended. Really appreciate that. Along those lines, what's not in my report is just a little story of just a few nights ago, last Tuesday night, in fact, we had a snow event, as Joe put it, one of the nuisance events. And one of our public works drivers, Gary Kive Sr., was out at night driving and noticed a couple young people, and then noticed also tracks, footprints going from vehicles along the street and then going to the next vehicle along the street. At which time, alertly informed, I think Nunzio was on that night, Santa Como, the officer, and at which time they were able to, the Latrobe Police Force, apprehend the suspects in the act of breaking into people's cars. And so that's just a typical example of how the staff works together. And I got to hand it to a guy plowing and putting salt down to be paying attention to that degree, to be able to do that kind of thing. So it's to credit to Joe and his training, and then also to the police. My report stands as written. I would encourage council to take some time to look at it. There's a great deal in there, including some things we're looking at doing to work with staff, recognition for years of service. It's nearly 15 years of service is the typical of the employees, of the 32 employees of the city of Latrobe. And also in there's a couple other notes related to the hospital, to the transfer station, and of course parking. Very important that you take some time to look at those. Lastly, I just want to encourage you to look at the opportunity we're going to be investigating in the future to by resolution, formally enter into a relationship with a sister city, Latrobe City, Australia, which is a city about 90 minutes east of Melbourne, about 75,000 people. And we're already beginning discussions on how we might be doing that international cultural exchange. That, with other things, are in my manager's report, and I would welcome comments and feedback, and we'll take time to meet with you as needed. Thank you.
Thanks.
Alex, my passport is valid. If you need somebody
Yeah,
to
me
go,
too.
I'll be glad to go on the city's dime.
Yeah,
Try to send them the second Monday of each month, would you, Alex?
Go gladly.
let them take the slow boat, huh?
Okay, I actually have two things, but one is just, I don't know if you read it this morning's
Paper about mergers, a touchy topic for communities across Pennsylvania. And I like to,
what,
Sue Trout from Greensburg had to say. She said, I don't see a merger happening, like for all the Greensburg parts, but said, I see us sharing services. And I think that's the more the way to go with the area, our surrounding, if anybody wants to,
and then the second,
The second was 2 weeks ago, was invited to St. Vincent. They had the 50th anniversary observance of the big fire at St. Vincent. And Mike was there, and a lot of our firefighters and a lot of my former students. St. Vincent did a really wonderful job handling that. And our former chief, Earl Dalton, was recognized, deservedly so. Also, Chief Hutchinson. I can do without some comment, but it was. You ever hear him? But it was really well done, tastefully done, and I was real happy to be there.
those are my thoughts. So that's all I have to say.
Mayor, did you want to mention the town hall meeting for healthcare reform? On Wednesday, February 20th at St. Vincent College at the Performing Arts Center in the Robert S. Carey Student Center, there will be a town hall meeting on healthcare reform for Excella Health. And might not be a bad time to come and share your thoughts about the future of Excella and Latrobe.
All right.
Your pens, my
I have
pens
a
now.
motion for, is anybody else? I have a motion for adjournment? Okay, Mr. Scapora, second? Motion? Okay, Mr. Jananthan. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, motion carried.